Many consider Diablo 2 to be a masterpiece of dark, medieval fantasy and addictive action-style gameplay. Its younger brother also holds a special place for some. Diablo 4 is on the horizon and is currently being labored over in the quiet confines of Blizzard. This video serves to postulate on how that team could learn from the various highs and lows of Diablo 2 and Diablo 1 in the areas of story, tone and theme, gameplay, economy, and feature design. Welcome to a high-level concept for Diablo 4. It's time for an origin story. The original Diablo told its story through the whispers of its townspeople. The cinematic set a dreary opening stage, and the rest of the tale was ripe with gothic horror if you were willing to read and listen. It was a simple storytelling machine, effective and never interfered with the core gameplay. Texts could be found while in the dungeon to supplement the narrative, but they never detracted from the main goal of Diablo: descend, descend, descend. Down and down you went, coming up only for air with a town portal to repair, restock your potions, and speak to the townsmen. It encouraged you to be engaged. However, many players who breezed past the story in favor of the combat may have failed to understand the story of Diablo altogether. A tale of angels and demons and the eternal conflict. A story of how the prime evils were banished to a world known as Sanctuary and hunted by the mages of the Horadrim, casting the evils into imprisonment across the world, the soul of Diablo himself resting, waiting, and scheming below the peaceful town of Tristram. Now, Diablo 2 continued with this linear storytelling approach, but enhanced it by introducing acts. Blizzard then cut the acts into quests that the player could complete at his or her own pace, eventually confronting a boss at the end of each act before proceeding on to the next. With its new, larger world size and the introduction of teleportation waypoints, Diablo 2 helped players keep track of where they were at in each act, all the while drip-feeding the story in small increments, effectively creating smaller, well-paced stories in each chapter. The tale of the Dark Wanderer was told, a natural extension of the original story for sure, and it transitioned nicely into Diablo 2's New World template. Conversely, Diablo 3's story beats you over the head with its endless foreshadowing, James Bond-style villains, and cutscene linearity. Once again continuing the tale of Diablo 2, the story stretched itself too thin, like butter scraped over too much bread, attempting endlessly to ram its cackling villains in your face with cringy dialogue, lest we forgot how horrifying and evil they were.
The 7 evils are one within me. I am Legion.
It was almost childlike. Diablo 4 needs to change this formula. The World Stone offers an enticing subject matter for Diablo 4 and can be used to tell a prequel origin story, the first of the series. The World Stone originally lay in the realm of Pandemonium, the scar of the universe's violent birth from the Battle of Anu and Tathlamat. It was the foundation of all places and times, a nexus of realities fought for by none other than angels themselves. This very stone created worlds, and with it the power to create life and death. Its very existence provides a very intoxicating story to be told. The possibilities are endless. How was the World Stone created, and how did the first angel come to be? Who learned of the World Stone and how? A deeply dark tale of the World Stone, shaped by the maniacal hands of the first ever angel to set eyes on it, could be told. The beginning of time itself. Perhaps even further back, Diablo 4 could tell a tale of who created the World Stone and why. Darkness could cloud either tale, narrated by an unknown host of evil recounting the story of its inception while it's happening, perhaps being a slave in the custody of the creator, akin to the narrative style of the slave Taisha in the Amazing River God novel by Wilbur Smith, watching the birth of the World Stone before his very eyes. Tone has always superseded story in Diablo. The series is at its best when it highlights the black tone of death and accentuates the perils of unknown evils foreboding dangers to come. In the original Diablo, there was of course a story to find if you sought it out, but it was placed secondary to the notion that Diablo was supported more by the weight of its ambience, and the horrors that lurk below you, and the darkness that light couldn't penetrate, all factors that support the overall dark tone of the game. Tristram was shrouded in a nervous overcast of anxiety. Townspeople spoke in whispers, fragments of speech, for fear of the evils lurking in the spaces of their mind to strike them down for their heresy. Not an ounce of sunlight. A curse loomed over the town. Blood spoke to you as the gatekeeper into the shadows. Every corner of the dungeon was hidden in shadow, from the upper cathedral all the way down to the caves, the catacombs, and hell. Even the staircases offered no visibility of what was to come, inviting you into their depths with the mesmerizing gaze of nothingness. Diablo 2 carried this tone in its undercurrent, yet diversified it by adding more to it while keeping the dark theme wholly intact. More green was added, more blue and white, and shades of orange, yet always aided by the artist's stroke of a dark hand. The rogue encampment and the fields of Act 1 were never evergreen, but muddy green and covered in the infested bones of skeletons and freakish axe-wielding goatmen who loomed over the burial grounds. The whiteout of the frigid highlands was more frosty than white and howling with the chilling wind of the mountain, foreshadowing the barren cruelty of the frozen peaks of Ariat looming down on you. Even the caves of the crystalline passage, a deep, frozen blue enveloped by the black fog of war surrounding your character. It wasn't really blue. It was dingy and always dark. It was midnight. Act 2 cast a blinding light of yellow and orange on your character, yet always seemed hell-bent on sending you deeper and deeper underground to where no light shone through. Act 2 also came with a fantastic design philosophy to send you to the outer worldly arcane sanctuary halfway through the act, knowing that you probably had your fill of the bright and endless deserts hours past. Diablo 2 always seemed determined to send you into an environment of darkness. Diablo 4 could realize on this success and establish once again a tone of the Black Knight and the horrors waiting in the depths. Gone should be the fantasy World of Warcraft inspired tone of Diablo 3, the rainbow light show spectacles, and the bright colors. Thematics are of equal importance to the success of Diablo 4 alongside tone. Torment and suffering should be the blood of Diablo 4. Building on our proposed origin story, Diablo 4 could build on a theme of humane sorrowness, demented reality, and torture. The narrator's slave recounting the tale could be seen suffering from his own insanity, as was Marius during his travels with the Dark Wanderer in Diablo 2. Skill interactivity should be at the heart of Diablo 4's gameplay, to encourage a more expansive skill tree system and cross-pollination of skills. Diablo introduced the basics of point-and-click combat to us, and Diablo 2 expanded upon it in some very meaningful ways. The mechanics were enhanced, but diversity was lacking. The skill tree system incentivized you to specialize in very narrowly focused builds to be the most effective due to the bonus multiplier system. Creating a Frenzy Barbarian, for instance, offered only one choice, maxing out Double Swing and a few other specific skills to increase the damage modifier present on your Frenzy attack. The same could be said with 90% of the other skills in the game. Sorcerers were another prime culprit, and you often left many skills untapped as you progressed. Specializing is a fine mechanic, but incentivizing players to omit the bulk of skills just for the sake of gaining, let's say, 0.5% of damage is another thing. It diffuses a sense of skill and gameplay diversity. Introducing interactivity effects could solve this. A mage class casting a bolt of lightning onto a water-based tsunami spell could electrify the area for additional damage. A necromancer casting a nova spell of poison onto summoned skeletons could bathe them in disease, spreading AoE damage in clusters around themselves. Or an archer class throwing an explosive potion onto the ground in which he can detonate with an arrow to send a spray of fire plummeting towards his foes. It's a physics-based approach for sure, and something Blizzard can definitely implement in Diablo 4. Of course, these are small examples, but they show how skill interactivity could go far beyond simple bonus modifiers. This concept also applies to cross-character play. For instance, having a paladin class summon a healing wind through that fiery explosion that the archer set off might light the healing ablaze to burn enemies while healing allies not caught in the spread. Or melee classes physically blocking arrows and projectiles with special shield abilities if they're positioned correctly in front of their allies. A dynamic system such as this would open up more freedom to experiment with the skill tree, knowing that benefits outside of what the skill actually gives you are available, which may lead to more creativity and longevity of the skill tree system as a whole. I'd also love to see a return to the potion system of Diablo 2. The potion system of Diablo 4 could take many approaches, such as the creation of potions that scale with player levels or limiting the amounts of potions you can consume in rapid succession to incentivize you to take your health points seriously. Or a flask approach as seen in Dark Souls could be developed, wherein you could refill your potions by paying gold to friendly NPCs or filling them in water wells littered throughout the world in randomized locations. Finally, release the grasp on cooldown based abilities. Cooldown abilities completely annex the requirement for self-management of multiple resources of the player beyond simple duration timers. It incentivizes a run-in, do as much damage as you can, use your potions and cooldowns, run out, and then do it all over again. It's not fun, it's just a clown fiesta. Diablo should be a game of skill, resource management, and risk. Cooldown abilities are the antithesis of that design. If darkness is the heart of the Diablo franchise, then gear is the blood of it. Diablo was the baseline standard for weapon and arms gear, and Diablo 2 gave us much more. Rune words, charms, more randomized modifiers to unidentified items, and set pieces. Overall, the gear system of Diablo 2 was great, although ruined in Lords of Destruction by overpowered rune words. Rune words could see a return, but the power differences need to be addressed. The modifier system of Diablo games could be expanded upon as well. Instead of the traditional +5 to strength or reduced bash cooldown, let's get original here. Introduce fun cross-class mechanics such as gear attributes that apply bonuses to party skills, on-hit chances to proc summons, or a modifier for insta-gimming at the expense of average damage. This could be extended so far as to create weapons that defy the norms of traditional classes. Great swords with plus spell damage for wizards that could be imbued with magic damage so that melee combat is never 100% out of the question, or iron staffs for warriors with a chance to knock over enemies. The possibilities are endless. And of course, trading must return to Diablo 4. Trading created its own dynamic economy in Diablo 2, of course not for the right reasons. Gold was inherently useless for doing anything other than repairing your gear. Proper gold scaling must exist, as well as incentives to trade gold for items by actually having best-in-class weapons available for the richest of the rich to purchase for gold. Obviously that means gold must be hard to attain. Permanency must return in Diablo 4 while abandoning the crippling concessions of Diablo 3's autopilot skill system. Builds in Diablo games are meant to be user-created and come at a cost. Attribute points should come back, but with some modifications to the original Diablo 2 formula. Firstly, attribute points need to be mapped to N-level gear to avoid players completely ignoring certain attributes such as energy from Diablo 2. Each attribute should exist as a serious contender and be aligned with necessity. Several tiers of benefits should be associated with each attribute to ensure players have to consider more pros and cons before making permanent decisions. In terms of game design, Diablo 2's main fault lied within its criminal pacing. Once killing Baal on normal, players would be somewhere around level 32, maybe level 34. Starting the next difficulty, however, Nightmare, required players to be in their high 40s if not level 50 to be able to complete Act 1. Thus, players sat in the Throne of Destruction, endlessly farming Baal until level 50. Diablo 4 should measure out its difficulty progression so that players do not have to repeat areas until they've completed the final difficulty. So that's it for the Diablo video, guys. I know I didn't have the time to tackle everything here, so I'm going to leave the comment section wide open for comments, and I want to chat with you guys to see what you want done to Diablo 4. Thanks for watching. Have yourself a kick-ass day. We're going to see you in a few days.